We are live. What up, YouTube? What up, YouTube?
Hey.
Oh, there it is right there. Nice. And then let's do. Yeah, we'll do that one because you're vertical.
Oh, do I need to switch it?
No. You good? I'll just
Oh,
keep it. I'll keep it like this, split this way.
oh.
What up, YouTube? Talk Life coming in live with Bri from Bri Images. What's happening, Bri? What's going on?
Hey, just chilling.
The classic. Hey, that's what I hear. Like
Hey.
every time when you be having the story. Hey, it's photo shoot
Hey,
day.
everybody. It's
Yeah,
photo day.
photo shoot day. Yeah, I
It's
like it.
photo shoot day.
So, for well, it's too quick for anybody to be in here. I don't my lives don't be jumping like Miz live because my lives be
Oh, you good.
I don't be doing those shoots. But I do want to do this to where people could watch it after.
For sure.
So the point of this live today, we are talking about money or morals when it comes to photography and picture taking and what you will and won't do as a photographer in terms of photo shoots that you do and clients and what clients want to do. So before we jump into the discussion, how about you first let the world know who you are, introduce yourself, what do you do, what type of pictures do you take, all of that good stuff.
Well, my name is Bri, and my business, I guess, is Bri Images Photography on all social platforms. And I'm in Las Vegas. And I pretty much do like lifestyle and fashion editorial style shooting. The editorial part was a little bit more recent in the past year or so, but um, yeah, that's what I do. A lot of lifestyle branding, things like that.
Very nice, very nice. So this conversation, I wanted to have this conversation because just in some other lives that Bria and I have done or have been a part of, like there's this discussion that comes up in terms of as a photographer, where is your line in terms of what you will and won't shoot. So what I mean by that is, there's some photographers that don't do weddings or they don't do this. But then there's photographers that take it a step further than that and they won't do particular types of shoots like boudoir shoots or, if the model is, going to be wearing a certain thing or the theme of the shoot is a certain thing. There's certain things that some photographers won't shoot. And I just thought it would be a cool discussion to have because every time it comes up in the live, you kind of get different opinions on things. And so I kind of have my opinion on stuff, and you have your opinion. I just wanted to get together and just have a discussion and just kind of talk about it. Obviously, there's no right or wrong. Like every photographer is entitled to do what they want, but I think in just having this conversation and hearing different people's viewpoints, it maybe can open up people's eyes to seeing things a way that maybe they hadn't seen before, and that's really what discussion is all about, really.
For
Um,
sure.
so to start off, let's talk about exactly where your line is. So when it comes to shooting models, male or female, but I think for the sake of keeping it simple, let's maybe look at it from a female perspective. What type of shoots are you not willing to do?
Um, well, I think the first thing that I'd have to establish is I am saved. I'm a believer of Jesus Christ, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm always kind of talking about like, "Oh, y'all pray for me," and God don't like that. Like I'm always talking about it. So that's for sure my standard. But it's more of like a personal thing. So I as far as the covering of a woman, it's just important to me. I feel like in the world that we're in right now, it's so easy. Everyone's taking their clothes off. Everyone is exposing themselves or wanting to be viewed as sexy, and it usually has something to do with not having your clothes on. And I feel like because it's so prevalent, I, number one, want to do something that's the opposite of that, because I feel like what everybody is doing is easy to do. If everyone's accepting of it, it doesn't really take much creativity. You know what I'm saying? But on the other side of it is, I don't want to present any other woman in any other way than how I present myself. And so a lot of people know me as like outgoing and bubbly and this and that, but like you don't usually see me like exposing myself or like in anything that's sexy and stuff like that. But I'm also not a frumpy person either. So you know what I'm saying? So it's not like I'm not like all like, oh, don't like you know, so there's like this mentality that comes with like, if you have clothes on, then it's like it's boring, it's drab, it's it's not attractive and things like that. But I wanted to bring this other element in for the man and for the woman, really, that the attraction and the beauty or the handsomeness, all that stuff comes from within and it comes from who you are. So I take it on as a challenge, to be able to get someone in front of my lens and portray their beauty, their personality, their tenderness, or even if they're masculine, like all of those, being able to portray that with clothes on. Like that's just me. So I'm not shooting boudoir. I'm not even, sometimes I have clients that come with me or come to me with different outfits. They're like, oh, it's my birthday. This is what I want to wear. Da, da, da. And I'm like, I'm not going to shoot that. If you have something that's a little bit, more covered up, like I don't, if your breast is hanging out, I'm not. If your butt is hanging out, I'm not. Is there some things that people may wear that I wouldn't wear? Yeah. And I may shoot it. It may not be my style. I may have worn it a little bit different, but as long as it's not, completely revealing, where if you put it in another setting, if I'm saying it properly, like
Yeah, yeah,
if you
yeah,
can wear it in like a different setting,
yeah,
and you know what I'm saying, then I'm not gonna take it.
yeah,
But I make that clear, and I'm not disrespectful about it at all. I'm like, oh, child, I ain't, and then most of the time they're like, okay, let me find something else because I want to shoot with you,
bet.
like,
Yep, yep.
so.
Cool. So I mean, first of all, I respect that 100%, and I think I agree that nowadays it's like sexy has been equated to being naked, and I grew up in a house full of women, so I've always had a lot of respect for just women in general, and it does make me sad to see where, in order for society to deem something as sexy or attractive, it has to be revealing. And I agree
Mhm.
100% that I think, women are beautiful, and I don't feel like, they need to take their clothes off to be beautiful. Now, that's not to say that I'm like, I look at someone's work where they're shooting someone and, they have a model that's, revealing clothes or whatever, and I'm judging them or looking at them, in a certain way. I don't, what I'm saying? It's like, when it comes to what I shoot, it's like people do what they want. They shoot what they want. I don't judge people. It's like I may not do something, but if someone else does something, I don't really care. It doesn't really bother me. It's not my business. But um,
Mhm.
but I do agree 100% that that's kind of where it's at. So if a model that you want to work with, if they have done or would do or would be willing to do the type of shoot or wear something that you wouldn't shoot, if they've done that or would be willing to do that, would you still work with that model?
I believe so. I mean, I have. So most of the people that I've shot, even because I just recently, probably within the last year, have started working with models, right? So I typically was working with families and things like that. So they were coming to me for their family photos. So you come for your family photos, you come with it a little different than if you come in for, like a personal shoot or like a birthday, like, I'm trying to be a baddie today, Bri, like, you know what I'm saying? So um majority, I know that majority of the people I'm going to shoot are going to be okay shooting things that I would not necessarily capture. um but when you get in front of my lens, you're gonna you follow, like, it's basically, I was talking to my mom recently, and she broke down photography in a way that I had never thought of it. And it was basically, when you hire a photographer, you're paying them or hiring them to see the world through their eyes, right? So it's like, that's what I want. And so the way I view you as beautiful, or handsome or whatever, or cool, quirky, whatever it is, I'm capturing you and I'm telling the story that I see or that I would want to see on you. And so people know all the time, like, you come over here, you're gonna have some clothes on. Like, everybody knows that, and they make their jokes or whatever, and it's not even to slight, but it almost brings about a consciousness, because on the other hand, I have models that they shoot, you know, they may not have clothes on or whatever, and they're okay with it. They post it, you know, that's what they're booking. And then when I talk to them personally, or they come to me and I'm like, hey, I have this concept, they're like, I've always wanted to do something like this. Like, or they say, Bri, can you help me with this? Because this is what I want to shoot. Like, and because like I always tell people, like, when you start taking your clothes off, you almost get stuck in that. And that's all everybody wants to shoot you in. And a lot of the models have expressed to me, like, I get tired of that. Like, every time somebody comes with me with a concept, I don't got no clothes on in it. And like, I do it because it's still like, I know that either the quality of the work is good, so they know they're going to get a really good image. And it's to build their portfolio. But at the same time, they forget that you're building your portfolio of stuff that you're saying that you don't necessarily want to do. And so I kind of feel like I'm that go-between. Like, I'm that safe space to where it's like, I don't care what you did before. When you come over here, let's get creative. Like, let's do this, let's do that. And they love it, you know? So it's like being that space that is not so pumped up, or it's not so popular, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't mind that. Like, the people that, like I said, they come over here, they know what they're getting. It's not like like, I'm not uncomfortable about it. Like, because if I'm uncomfortable about it, then they're gonna be like, oh, she was kind of weird about it. Like, she was,
Yeah.
and they take it as being rude or whatever. But I'm gonna be like, no, but let's do this, let's do that. I've even had to tell
So
people, yeah.
so a question would be, if a model came to you, or even a client, if they came to you and they had this vision or this idea and it was something that you were not down to shoot, how do you handle, like, what do you say to a client or a model to shut that down, basically?
Um, okay, wait, repeat the question, because I definitely zoned out for a second.
Yeah. So it's too early for you to be zoning out. So
Wait,
so
just the first
let me
part.
word that a different way, because I don't even think I asked the question the right way. If a client or a model comes to you, you're going to tell them that, you know, that's not your thing. How, like, what would you say to them to basically say, like, I'm not shooting that?
Oh, it depends. Like, I kind of take into consideration the type of person that they are, kind of like get a read off of them or whatever. But if it's a stranger I don't really know, then I'm just very professional. Like, okay, I love the concept, I love the idea or the theme or whatever. I would love to capture you, but that style of clothing or like that particular outfit is not something that I would typically capture. It's a little I don't even think I describe what it is. I just say that's a little too revealing than what I would typically capture. If you can find another outfit, have you bought it already? If you have, I totally understand. I can suggest, you know, I can refer some other photographers to you. Like, I don't ever want people to feel like disrespected by me, or that I'm like downing them because that's what they want to wear. If you want to wear that, that's totally fine. I'm just not going to take the picture. And I can find somebody that'll take the picture for you. You know what I'm saying? So I always,
Big
I want to
facts.
make sure I want to make sure we leave it on good terms, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good segue to my next question. So some people would say that you could do, say, a boudoir shoot or a shoot where they have something that's revealing. So people would say you could just do that shoot and just not post any of those pictures to your social media or your website. So in other words, you know, you take the client, work with the model, take the pictures, give them the pictures, and just never show it. What would be your response to that?
I'm not doing it because I'm not shooting anything that I can't stand behind. And I think that, especially because I'm saved and I always am talking about God and this and that, I feel like um, I already am in a position where people are waiting for me to not keep my word, or to not stand on what I said I would. You know, like, oh, not real here. She, look at this. This is my friend such and such cousin, and she shot this, and she said she would never do that. You know what I'm saying? And it's not even really for other people, but for me. It's like, I don't. it's about representation for me. And most of the time, when you shoot pictures or you take pictures in a certain way, you're perceived a certain way. As much as people want to say, I don't judge, I don't judge, I don't judge, we all judge. We all judge something, and we put people in categories based on how they present themselves. And that's just how it is. We were all built that way. Whether you roll in your eyes when you put them in the category, it doesn't matter. Whether you're drooling when you put them in a category, it doesn't matter. So my thing is, I don't represent myself in this way as a woman. And I expect a certain amount of respect, and I carry myself that way. And so I'm going to portray another woman and treat her with that same respect and put her in that same position.
So
So,
so do you feel that it's not possible to separate the photography that you do and the person that you are outside of photography? So in other words, you wouldn't wear the stuff that you don't shoot people in, or you wouldn't do a boudoir shoot, because you want to present women in this certain light. But as a
mhm,
photographer, if you shoot those things, do you think that there's not a separation? Like, look at it from, business, really, right? Like, sometimes you do
mhm.
stuff business wise that it's like, well, I wouldn't do that in my personal life. That's not really something that I'm into, but it's business, and it's like business is business, personal life is personal. Do you not feel like you could shoot those things and it be kind of categorized as business, even though it's something that you wouldn't necessarily agree with or do in your personal life?
Um, there's a thin line with that. So, there is a difference for me. Like I've said this before, say I'm shooting an event, right? So I'm doing event photography. I can't dress everybody at the event, but if I'm doing a birthday party or whatever, I'm going to take the pictures. That's what y'all decide to wear. When it comes to something that's a one-on-one, we plan this shoot, we picked the outfits, we chose what story we wanted to tell. That's where I can have my standard. And I feel like um business and personal, there are things that are personal, and then there are things that are um it's just the standard for me, right? And so my personal standard of how I choose to live my life, or the way that I view life across the board, it's gonna filter through everything that I do. I can't separate them. It's like, okay, well, that's what they want to do, so I'm gonna let them do it. It's like, I can't do that. Do I think everybody has to have that same standard? No. And everybody doesn't have that same standard. It's like, well, that's what they want to do with their life. That's fine with me. That's not how I live. So I don't separate that to that extent. But like, I don't drink either. But I had to shoot an event and everybody was drinking. They was taking shots. I took a picture of the shot. That's your memory. That's what y'all wanted to do. I captured it and it looked like they had a grand time. They loved the pictures.
Yeah.
Did I have to drink? No, they handed me a glass and said, no, thank you. It's okay. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things right now in this climate, is that even if I don't do it, I have to be okay. And like I have to agree with everything, even if I don't do it. It's like there's like this, I have to support everybody and I have to support everything, even ow. I have to support
Easy
everything,
now.
even if even if I don't, and I don't believe that. If I
Right.
don't agree with something, I don't have to stand with it.
Right.
Same way, if but it doesn't have, I don't have to argue about it. It's not an argument.
Right.
I'm not about to fight anybody about it, but if I don't like it, or I don't want to do it, and I don't want to partake in it, I should be able to say that without being like, what do you mean you don't do that? I mean, I don't do
Yeah.
that. That's just it.
So let's say you're doing like a one-on-one client, and everything is going good, and in the middle of the shoot they're like, okay, I got another outfit that I want to put on. They go in the dressing room, they change, they come out. It's an outfit that if you knew that they were going to wear that outfit at the beginning of the shoot, like, you would have been like, I'm not taking pictures in that outfit. But again, you're midway through the shoot, it's booked, you've already been paid. How do you handle that? What would you do in a situation like that?
I'm not taking it.
So you would
But
you would
at
shut
the
it down.
Yeah, at that point though, I build a relationship and a rapport with my clients. Like, very seldomly is it straight like, "Hi, I'm here to take your pictures. Turn, turn, turn." Like, what you see right now is what you get. We're gonna feel like best friends. So they come out and be like, oh, where you get that? That you did not send me that. You didn't. They
Yeah,
gonna be like,
yeah.
I know you said, but like, if you could just get a couple of, I've had it happen. If you just get just a couple of, these would just be for me. Like, these would just be, I'm like, now we done talked about
So
this.
you still
Go.
wouldn't do it even if they was like just a couple pictures just for me. You would shut it down.
No, because you know what that says to me? Because I'm very clear and I'm communicate. So the fact that someone would do that tells me that they don't respect me. And I've given you all, like, I've given everyone the utmost respect. I've been clear. That's respectful to me, being clear about my intentions and what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do before you even pay me. Right? So if you put me in that position and be like, I know you said, but let's just do it, and it's like, okay, now you're taking my kindness for what you're trying to take advantage of me because I am outgoing. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to treat you, we don't have fun. But then you put me in a position to go back on my word. And so at that point, I know that's not being respectful of me and what I asked of you. Like, we made an agreement here. You signed the contract. Like, we already discussed this. So you put me in a position. So my no shouldn't be a surprise to you,
Right, right.
you know?
Yep. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. So when it comes to other photographers um, that shoot the stuff that you don't shoot, and it's let's say it's. I mean, I'm not. I'm not trying to have you. I'm not. No,
I see
I'm
the comments too. I'm over here crying.
yeah.
I'm over here
Um,
cracking up.
so for the photographers that shoot the stuff that you don't shoot, does that impact at all the way that you either look at or see that photographer, or does that impact the way that you look at or value their work? And I'm not trying to, I'm not saying like I'm not trying to get nothing started, but I'm really just curious.
Mhm,
When you have a photographer that doesn't do something, like you said, if so, you're like I can get you a photographer that will do it. So how do you
mhm.
feel about those photographers that are doing the type of shoots and will shoot the type of outfits that you won't shoot? How do you feel about those photographers?
I don't feel anyway. Like, my, like I said, my standard is, and my foundation is Jesus Christ. So that alone will set me in a different category than other people. You know what I'm saying? Especially if they don't believe that, it's kind of like, okay, like, what Jesus got to do with me? You know what I'm saying? And so, like, that alone is going to put me in a different space. So I don't feel any kind of way. Not even saying I'm listening.
Say it with your chest.
I'm listening. No, I don't feel any type of way. Do I me I do feel like that there's a line, because we all done seen some photographers that be just, it's nothing creative about it. Like, if anything, it's wow, okay? And like, and I don't think any of them is in here, so y'all don't gotta, I don't know
Right.
anybody, I don't know them personally, but we all know we've seen those photographers that are just doing stuff that's like out of pocket. Like, number one, I'm mad at you and I'm mad at her because what's going on? You know what I'm saying? So do I have an issue with what people shoot? And it's not me. I'm not shooting it. And I think I've said before, like, I watch who I follow too. Like, if that's all you post, I don't shoot it for a reason. Like, if I don't want to see it through my lens, like, I'm not looking at it either. You know what I'm saying? So that's fine. That is totally fine. What you want to do, I'm not religious, Bri, but I still
Yeah.
feel the same way. Absolutely. And there's a moral standard. Everyone has one, right? There's some things hit people a little bit differently than others. Some people have different convictions than others, and it can come from different things. It can come from life experiences, like you said, sisters, mothers. Like, okay, my mom didn't dress like that, so I wouldn't want to see her dress like that. So it does something to my brain, right? So everybody has their thing. It's not, but I it don't matter. I'm not like,
Yeah. So
you
let
know.
me ask the maybe it's a semi tough question for you. Maybe it's not. If you were in a position, Cause, and I mean, I don't want to put your business out there, but you don't live by yourself, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So if you were in a situation where you were living by yourself
Mm-hmm.
and photography was what you did full time, so your entire livelihood depended on photography, you've got bills, you've got, you know, all of the stuff that you have to pay for on your end. If you're in that situation, do you think that you would maybe see things a little different, or would you take more work that you normally wouldn't take if you weren't as reliant on the financial aspect of photography? Like if you were in a situation where it's like you needed to get your bills paid and the
Mm-hmm.
shoots that people are wanting to book you for are things that you normally wouldn't do. If you were in
Mm-hmm.
a situation where you had to pay the bills, would you take those shoots?
No, I would be doing this as a hobby or like as a side hustle, and then doing something else because, like I said, this is about me and what I believe, and not compromising what I believe. That's literally what it's about. So I've turned down shoots before. I've had people block me, like after I said, "Oh, like can you?" I didn't know them personally, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's a little more than what I would want to, what I usually capture." If you take a look at my page, you don't see that, like if you're open to it, we can find another this or that. And they ghosted me or blocked me. I'm like, I wasn't following you anyway, but that's fine. Like, I don't understand why you're mad because there's a standard everywhere. That's like a restaurant saying no shoes, no shirt, no service. It's like, well, I don't ever wear a shirt, and you want to get mad just because that's the rules there. It's not. It's like that's the rules of Bri Images. Like, this is what we doing. So, no, I've been in positions where I've had to have tough conversations, but I'm willing to have them. I'm willing to walk away from whatever I need to walk away from. Um I had a huge like opportunity with this company, and it was a swimwear bikini line, right? And they're like, "We'll pay you whatever you want to pay, like this is what we want." And I turned it down. And even though swimwear can be like, it's not even necessarily I have an issue with it, but I feel like once I got in the situation, because it was for a brand, I wasn't gonna have as much creative control as like keeping it like a pure, like, I'm just out, like kind of like the hotel ads that they have out here, just like good time with the girls by the beach. I knew I might have been in a position where I would have had to do something more than what I would typically do based on their brand, right? So I mean, that was a pretty big, I was a pretty big check. You feel
Yeah,
me? But
yeah, yeah.
I was willing to walk
I'd have
away.
did it. I'd have did it. I'm gonna keep it real. But you know, I don't know. I'm like, I did business analyst work for a long time, and one of the big things about doing that is, and in the beginning when I first started doing that, I was young, and it was hard for me to separate like my personal feeling and conviction from being very critical to just what the customer needed. You know, sometimes like the customer will be like, "Oh, I want this," and like in my head, I'm like, "That's stupid. Why would we do that? Like, we're not gonna do that." And it took a long time for me to get to the point where I would be like, it's not about, you know, what I want. You know, I got to just look at it as, you know, what the client or the customer wants. So that's been so drilled in my head that like from a photography point of view, I separate the photography so much from my personal life that it's like even if like I'm like, yeah, I want to present women in a better light than what's out there. It's like if somebody wants to hire me to do boudoir, I would do it. It, you know, really wouldn't bother me at all, because to me it's just, it's a job, you know. And it's like, I'm going to go, I'm going to do the job, I'm going to do the job to the best of my ability, and then I'm going to move on, and I'm not going to think twice about it anymore. But you know, at that same time, I mean, I 100% respect your stance, and it's like, you know, that's what you believe in. And I think we need more of that, because I do think a lot of times people will go against what they really believe in for a dollar. And I think there, for me, it's a balance. You know, it's like I'm not going to do any and everything to make money. You know, there's definitely a line, but I do think my
Mhm.
line is, I've got a little bit more. My line is a little bit bigger. You know, so
Yeah.
you know. But so Ernesto asked, besides clothing or concepts, what else do you draw the line on with respect to photography? Is there anything else that you draw the line on outside of clothing and concept?
Um, what do you mean, like taking pictures of weed or stuff like that? Is
I
that
don't
what
know.
he's talking
That's
about?
he's just
I
asking
feel
the
like
question.
that's
Like, is there anything outside of, what someone's wearing, or boudoir? Is there anything else that you could think of that you would just be like, nah, I wouldn't do that? I mean, it's not an easy question. I mean, we can come back to it. You can think about it, but is there anything off
yeah.
the top of
I
your head
mean,
outside of like just like clothing that would make you be like,
I
nope,
mean,
not shooting
probably
that?
anything that's like probably things that are like super dark. Like I don't do any like demonic or real like dark stuff, like witchy poo type stuff. I don't like
Yeah.
that. I don't even like horror movies like that. So I ain't finna make a whole set. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably another thing. And I did want to mention that as far as drawing a line, I totally understand having a difference between, it's almost like the difference between, what is it? Church and state, like keeping those lines kind of like separate. I totally understand that there are lines, but with what I believe, it just filters through everything. It filters through how I treat people, like what people get from me. Their interaction with me filters through my belief. So it's like, we like that, but can you do this too? And it's like, well, if I do that, then you're probably not gonna like me anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I do understand that, like, there's gonna be things that I don't necessarily, that I wouldn't do personally, that I know I'm gonna have to capture, and I've done it, right? So um but yeah, I do draw a line at like demonic stuff and over sexual things.
Yeah. So you kind of approach it with, if somebody brings something to you, basically if it's not something that you would be into, or something that would be, if you were going to church on Sunday, if it's not something that you could be like,
I
congregation,
want to be
look
proud of
look at
it.
what I did. Like, if
Yeah,
it's not something that you could do that with, then you're more than likely going to turn that down.
exactly. I want to
Yeah.
be, and it's not even just like everybody else, it's me. Like if I'm gonna feel a way about it afterwards, like the picture quality is great, the colors are great, but like I hate that this is the story that I'm telling. That's how I view photography, as storytelling. So if I capture something in a way and like it either makes someone look not good, or is telling a story that I don't necessarily think should be told, like that bothers me personally. You know what I'm saying? It's not even
Yeah.
about like, even like male, female. It doesn't matter if you're a female, even a man. You know what I'm saying? Like I think I talked about before, there was like a picture on my page and a guy didn't have a shirt on. They're like, oh, what about this? What about this? It was his idea. And even after I, like in the moment where he was like, oh, can I do something with my shirt? This goes back to your question. Like this was early on. And so this is before I really even I wasn't doing anything creative. So family photos, ain't nobody taking their shirt off. Like no one ever asked me to do that. And so it was a more creative shoot, but it was very like hippie, urban, like one with the trees, right? And he was like, can I do something with my shirt off? And I was like, yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah. But like right when I said it, I was like, I wouldn't typically do this. Like, this is
Yeah.
not what we talked about, but I was like, okay, well, we're not doing like Maxim, like he's not like being all like, sexy or anything. It's just like him reading a book in the grass in the wind with no shirt on. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to try to capture this in the purest way possible. Right. But even then, like it bothered me afterward. Like that was for me. It bothered me because I'm like, I say that I don't do this. And here's this. It was a dope picture. I love the picture, but I was like, it bothered me.
Would
Nobody
would
was
you
like,
would you
ooh,
do fitness with no shirt?
probably, maybe. It totally depends. And that is something too, like the more that I'm starting to work with brands and real estate companies and all these different things, like I said, I understand there's going to be things that I'm going to have to capture that don't match up with something that I would do personally. Like I want to work with some of these hotels out here, right? And when they are doing come summer, da da da, and the girls, all of them have bikinis on, and they're like, come, let us serve you, da da. I'm not gonna have. I don't see myself being like, no. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a brand and it matches on brand. But as far as like maybe capturing like for a strip club out here, I'm not doing it because I
So
know what you're marketing.
so I have to ask, So if you want to work with the hotels out there in this summer and it's like, oh, let's party, pool party, how is that different than the swimsuit thing that you turned down?
Um
Or is it not, and you
that
just
is a good, it
as a
probably is.
business, you're just evolving a little bit and maybe just kind of loosen it up a little bit?
I think that it depends. Every situation is different. Now, when you have a huge like campaign, you know what I'm saying, and that's not the only thing that you're shooting, you're doing like one of my friends, she shoots for some of these hotels, and when they do stuff for the seasons, you got indoor slot play, you got this, you got that, and then you have the sitting by the pool eating like, you know, cheese and grapes with the girls in their big sun hats, right? It's not necessarily about selling the swimsuit and the curve of the this and the that, or like the V of the man. Like that's not what they're selling. What are we selling is what's important to me. If I'm capturing a moment, is different than what I'm selling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it definitely depends. It's definitely situation by situation. I don't have a, you know, this. It's kind of like, okay, let me hear the vision here, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I wanna touch on this question just real quick. So she said, when I was employed and your boss asked you to do something that goes against your moral values, would you still do it because he's paying you? So, Vivi, the answer to that is, it was circumstantial. There was times, and I worked in government. There was times where decisions were made at a very high level that I completely didn't agree with, but I'm paid to do a job. Like I cannot refuse to do something and expect to keep my job. And I think when it comes to morals and what you believe in, I do feel like there's levels to it. There's going to be things that you're going to have a stronger conviction about than others. It's the same thing when people say pick your battles, right? Like you're not going to go hard for every single thing. You're not going to fight for every single thing. There's some things that you're just like, yo, I don't agree with that, but it's not worth me fighting for. And I feel like when it comes to morals and beliefs and things like that, it's the same way. There's going to be certain things that you're just like, I don't really believe in that, but I mean, it's not a huge deal. And then there's going to be things that you're just like, nope, 100%, I would never do it no matter what, like can't be bought, would refuse 100% of the time. So, yeah, I mean, that's just the nature of, when you're not the boss, you're going to have to do things you don't want to do sometimes. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And I think, maybe in my photography life now, I kind of still have that same mantra. And sometimes there's things that I don't necessarily agree with, but it's not things that are that big of a deal to me. So if a client wants it, it's like, cool. I just don't do anything with it. I don't show it or I don't magnify it at all. But I mean, that's just the nature of that. So I just want to touch on that real quick. So I want to segue now, and
Thanks.
I want to segue to a topic that I've mentioned before, and I feel like it's people are split on how they feel about it. But I want to talk about paying models. Um, so first of all, would you pay a model for a shoot? Have you or would you?
I have paid models before. Context. I believe that even if I come with a concept, that people should be paid for their time. So I compensated them. They didn't give me their rate. It was more of, will you come and do this with me? Like, this is my idea. This is what you'd be doing. This is how long you would be doing it. And this is how much I, am willing to pay. And they agreed. And that was that. As far as paying like if I'm saying like, hey, you want to shoot, and they're like, this is my rate. um if it's worth it to me, then I would. You know what I'm saying? I don't see myself just being like, oh man, I gotta pay her. Like, I don't feel like I'm locked in to have to
Yeah.
pay. You know what I'm saying? But
So
I
when
don't mind compensating.
yeah, so when you pay for a model, so let's say you have a concept in mind, you find a model, you compensate that model. Do you provide that model with pictures from the shoot?
Yeah. Here recently, because I've been working with more models, and I actually recently worked with a model that is a part of a um, agency. They had, I'll never do this again though. It was my first time dealing with a model, a part of an agency as a part of my collab. I'll never do that again. And I would recommend that no one does that unless you really like get through with the contract and everything. But they basically send you a contract too that they want you to agree to. And it's like, you won't use it for a commercial. You won't, you can use the images, of course, for yourself and your own marketing, but like you can't sell the images later to any companies unless you talk to us first. And we want like 4 images in a month or something like that. It doesn't take me long to edit, so I wasn't tripping. And I really wasn't planning on doing the commercial route until the pictures was like doing what they was doing. And I was like, so of course they want to cut, which is fine. We'll get through that later. But yeah, I do put it in contract, like you'll for sure get at least 5, and then anything outside of that, or like I'll give you, say if we're shooting for to submit to a mag, whatever's in the mag like gets accepted in the mag, I'll give them that. And then if they want anything outside of that, then they have to pay for it. And I put
Gotcha.
that all in a contract.
So
Yeah.
here's my stance, and I want to know how you feel about it. And it's like my stance hasn't changed, man, from the first time I mentioned this on the tube to now. But my stance is, if I'm paying for a model, so if I have a shoot that I want to do and I'm paying for a model, I typically don't provide the model with any photos. Now, that's not to say that 100% of the time I don't, but my general rule and what is in my release is that you know the model is not entitled to any photos from the shoot, because my frame of mind is I am like when you do a collab, basically the compensation is, as a photographer, we get someone to shoot and we get images that we can use for marketing. The
Mm-hmm.
model, they get images that they can use for, excuse me, that they could use for whatever. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
that's how we are compensated. But it's like if I'm paying for a model, their time is being paid for. So to me, if I am paying the model and then I turn around and I give the model images as well, which as a full-time photographer, those images have value. Like when I'm doing a collab, like I'm giving you images, like that's my time, like there's value there. If I'm paying you to do the shoot, if I then turn around and give you images as well, to me, that's a double dip situation. And I don't think that that is a good business move for me. But there are people that disagree with that and think that, well, you're doing the shoot, you're going to edit photos, for your website or for social media. Why couldn't you just give them the photos? And my stance has always been, it's not that I can't, it's just that as a business
I
person,
ain't gonna do it.
yeah, it's like I draw that line. And I mean, that's discussed up front. Like I always tell the model, it's like if I'm going to pay you, that's fine. I have no problem paying you for your time, but I'm not going to give you any images.
But you
So,
gonna pay for these
what yeah,
pictures.
it's like whichever one is more important. Like if you want pictures, then we can collab and you get the pictures. If you prefer the money, that's fine too. Like here's the money and you're not going to get any pictures. Now, sometimes like if it's a model that I maybe work with a couple times or maybe the shoot is just, I mean, we just have a great time, I might throw a couple. But my stance is if I pay you, I don't give you any pictures. So what is your thought on that?
I can hear that. I can hear that. I don't see myself being in that position because if I ask you to shoot, here's the only way that the only way I could see that happening where I would agree to pay her um is if like it's for something that I'm getting on the back end. Like if I'm working, say if I'm a brand has hired me, right? They already paid me what I want to do for this shoot, and they're looking for a specific face. and I find a face for this brand. So essentially they're paying her rate. I don't care if she get the pictures or not because I already got paid. You know what I'm saying? But I don't see myself wanting to do something off creativity and paying and then not charging for the picture later. Like I probably, but me, like I'm so nice. I'm gonna give you. I want you to have the pictures. I want you to post them. I want you to do that. Now, like for that big flower child shoot that I did, there's so many pictures that I didn't even drop that are great. But I almost got overwhelmed by how many pictures I had. I took individuals. I took small groups. I did all of the things. So if they wanted any of those extra pictures that weren't published and that I didn't already put out there, then I would want to be paid for that because it extends my goal. Like it superseded the goal that we had in mind. I reached the goal. But all this extra stuff, like you would have to pay me for the time to edit it and like go back through and do all the things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
So
see.
so
Yeah.
Ike says exactly, Bri, it's called being nice. And I completely disagree that it's not being nice by not giving somebody something for free. I don't think like
Oh,
so here's my thing with that, right? Okay, you see a homeless person on the street and they need money. You give them $2. Somebody would be like, "That's nice," but somebody would be like, "What do you got in your pocket?" I got $40. Well, how come you didn't give him the $40? Well, I mean, I gave him two,
yeah.
yeah, but you could have gave him the $40. I mean, just be nice and give him the $40. Like, what's $2 going to do? So then you give him 40, and it's like, well, how much you got in your bank account? 1,000. Well, how come you don't go get all the
When
money
does it
out your bank
end?
account and give it? You know what I'm saying? It's just like there's you have like your lines of how much you'll do for anybody in any given situation. And to me, I always look at it as like I am very upfront before anything ever happens. Like at the point, like if I was to reach out to a model and say, hey, like here's what it is, like either I'll pay you your rate or we can collab and you get pictures. Like I literally mentioned that before we even talk about anything else. Before I send a mood board, before we even discuss anything, it's like these are the parameters. Are you cool with that? So the
Hmm.
models going into it already knowing like what the situation is. So it's not like, they get blindsided where it's like, oh, the shoot's over and then they send me a message and they like, yo, when those pictures gonna be done? And I'm like, I ain't sending you no pictures. Like I paid you. Nah, it's like they know what they're getting into already. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like where's the line? It's like when like if
Yeah.
I do a collab, sometimes I literally may only want one picture just to put on my website. That's it. So yeah, I mean I can send her
That's
that
crazy.
one
Not you doing a
picture,
whole shoot for
but
one picture. That's
hey,
insane.
that's all I look to get from if I do a collab. It's like if I just need one picture. So I don't know. To me, it's just like I don't see it as not being nice. I just see it as I have to make a business decision, and it's like my time has value, and it's like if I'm already spending my business physical dollars to do the shoot, it's like I can't turn around and also give time dollars as well. It's like that just doesn't work for me as a business.
Yeah. I mean, it just, at the end of the day, it just depends on what's right for you. Like, what works for you. My niceness hasn't, or not niceness, whatever, like, that's a part of my brand. Like, Bri's gonna go over and beyond. She's gonna make sure you fed. She's gonna do this. She's gonna do that. That's the part. That's me. When you hire me, you give me. You come to my house. I'm gonna ask you if you want some water. You want some ice in it. You want some lemon. Like that's just me. Other people be like, I don't know you like that. Like stay on the porch. That's just everybody has their own. They have their own thing that they want and that they do and what's like a line for them, like, oh, I ain't letting nobody get this close to me. I ain't let you know what I'm saying? Like that's just everybody's personal preference and it's no right way or no wrong way. My niceness, have I been taken advantage of? Like I can't be taken advantage of when it comes to photography and what I'm giving, what I agree to give or anything like that, because what I do it out of my heart. I'm not doing it so people can say, oh, yes, Bri is the best. Like, I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing this because I really care about it. So, whatever you get from me is because I really want to do it. If you take advantage of it and say, oh, we want this too, it's like, okay, I'm going to send you this invoice. Thank you
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much. Like,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
just that's just it. But I don't ever feel like someone can take advantage of me because, oh, Bri, you're being too nice. It's like, okay, well, I wanted to. I don't feel any type of way. You paid me, you know, or you didn't pay me. My collabs, you guys have seen my collabs. I put money into that mess. Like, I really do. And some people may be like, that's stupid. You shouldn't be putting that much money into a collab. Like, you're not getting paid. Like, but it pays off. It's something I.
Oh man, we lost Bree. uh, so while she's reconnected back in, so mid to answer your question from my point of view, if they screenshot the post and post the pics anyway, um, if they we lost you
Oh,
there. If they screenshot the post and post the pics anyway, um, that doesn't really bother me. I don't really care about that. It's for me. It's not them re sharing my post or however you want to say that. Is more or less. I'm not going to take the time to edit pictures specifically to send to a model that I've paid for. Like that's my stance. Like it's not like if I have already edited the picture, I'm not against giving the model a picture that I've already taken the time to edit. I'm not against that at all. And more than likely, if the shoot was good, I would likely send them those pictures anyway because I've already done the work. So that's irrelevant to me. It's like if I've done the work, that means I'm going to post it somewhere. So it's irrelevant. If they want that picture, cool. What I'm saying is I'm not going to take the time to edit a picture that I'm not using to send to a model that I've paid for. That is my stance. So let's go through some of these. Bree, did we lose you again? Did you freeze up?
I don't know
Um,
what's going on.
let's see. So Infinite said
Uh,
nothing wrong with being nice, but there has to be a limit.
can you see me?
100%. Yeah, I you froze up. I can hear you, but can't see you.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. Oh, I see myself frozen. That's real crazy. Y'all better not screenshot either.
Screenshot it, folks.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if this works. Uh, I don't know what's going on. Oh, I feel so bad.
Yeah. Only time I ever paid a model was for a photo walk, and I never got to shoot any of the models. Yeah, I mean, we all strive to be at the Ike levels where we could just get collabs that we don't have to cut no money for. uh
You wait, y'all paying for y'all models on collabs?
Not well, no, I mean, so, depending upon well, I mean, it wouldn't be a collab to me. It wouldn't be a collab if I'm paying for the model. But if I have
Oh.
a specific image that I'm trying to get, I will 100% pay a model to be able to do that shoot to get that image. 100%.
I am not on Android. I just want to clear that up right now. Oh, right now I gotta clear that up. Okay,
Yeah, no,
continue.
SJ the only Android person I know these days. Um, yeah, I don't have any problem paying a model. And usually, if I reach out to a model, the first question I typically ask is, "What's your rate?" Because I think Bree, like I kind of look at it the same way you do. It's like collabs are cool. I like collabs, and if you could do a collab and you don't have to shell out any money, great. But I also feel like if you have a specific vision, I think this is where there's a difference between you're shooting for something like YouTube, where it doesn't like the outcome doesn't really matter. You just need the content to make a video. So the pictures that you get are somewhat irrelevant versus you have a concept or a vision that you are trying to do. When you're in that latter category, doing collabs sometimes can be more trouble than it's worth because if you're not getting an experienced model or someone that takes modeling serious, it could be tough to see that vision through on that concept that you have just trying to do something for free and just trying to find an IG baddie they might look good, but if they don't have that modeling experience or they don't take modeling serious, then yeah, it just it can make getting that shoot or doing that shoot challenging. So if I have like a vision for something, like I specifically want to get a certain type of image, I'm going to be more prone to want to pay somebody for that than I would be if I'm just trying to do a YouTube video. I'm probably not really wanting to pay somebody if all I'm trying to do is a YouTube video, because it's just like it's a YouTube video, like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, you know what I'm saying? But if it's like, yo, like I got this concept in my head, like I really want to see this through, I'm probably gonna want to pay somebody.
Yeah, I think what Ike said too, he said, but I've paid models in other ways by buying or helping with
Yeah,
wardrobe.
yeah,
I've bought fits before and let the
yeah.
models keep them.
Big facts.
Let me tell you, that is 100% true. If that's the case, I didn't pay for models, honey, because all the shoots that I've done, like they got to keep their outfits. Like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. Shoot a full fit. You hear me?
Yeah,
Shoes, bag, jewelry. Like they got to keep it because either it was really out of like it was real like something nobody would really wear, but you're a model. You're gonna be able to use that. You know what I'm saying? I
yeah,
probably bought you a Starbucks, made sure you were fed because hungry models don't model well.
yeah, yeah,
Wink,
yeah.
wink,
Big
cough,
facts.
cough. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that they get compensated. Like I don't feel like I don't consider photography like a hustle. You know what I'm saying? I feel like some people are like, yeah, like if I can't step on your back, then I ain't working with you. Like that's just that's just not how it works. Like then of course you want to consider, you know, if this is gonna take me further, is this gonna set me back? Is this just for funsies? Like those are all the things you think about, and
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah. I always say, you know, your end goal for, well, for me anyway, like my end goal really dictates the route that I go in terms of, you know, procuring somebody. It's like at the end of the day, it's like if I want something, you know, a lot of times you got to pay to get that. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're not gonna, the odds of you getting a model for free that is able to execute your vision like without problem and in an efficient way. You know what I'm saying? Because like if I'm doing a shoot, it's like I don't have time to be spending 2-3 hours trying to get something. It's like I want to be able to knock it out in, you know, 30, 45 minutes, hour tops. You know, it's like I don't want to be spending 3 hours trying to get something and then I spend 3 hours and I'm like, ah, the image is okay, but it's not really nah,
But
it's
was
like
that their fault or was that your fault?
I mean, I guess maybe both. You know, I think, you know, that's tough to say because I feel like, you know, a lot of times people will be like, you know, photographers, like you need to be able to, you know, work with anything. You know, if they don't know what they're doing, you need to be able to coach them. You need to be able to guide them. You need to be able to do this, that, and the other. And I do agree to that, but at the same time, it's like you can only do so much with a person. You know what I'm saying? It's like if I wanted a model to be able to do a back handstand and I
You
get a
should have
model
vetted her. You should
that's
have vetted
never.
her. You gotta do your research. You know what I'm
Yeah, no,
saying?
no,
Like I feel like
that wasn't a good example. I think I think as photographers, like you can only do so much. Like if photographers try to say that they could take any person, like they could just go take somebody off the street and you got this reference photo of this is the look that I'm trying to get. And you just go get someone off the street and you can make it happen in a half hour. Like I that's not always doable. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, I don't think that it's always, you know, all was on the photographer. Like, yeah, sometimes it's just, you know, the person that you have, they're just not going to be able to execute that. And sometimes maybe you think they can. Like, you know, maybe that person that I want to do a back handstand, like maybe she was a ballerina. So I'm thinking like, okay, this is right up her alley. She's going to be able to knock this out of the park. But come to find out, she ain't did ballerina stuff for 5 years and she can't bend that way no more.
that was a 2014 pick. Ah,
Yeah,
big.
it's like, you know, there ain't nothing I could do there. You know, like we could try, but um,
You win some, you lose some.
yeah, I just and I mean, hey, you know, sometimes it is on me. Like I definitely won't say that it's like every shoot that I do, I completely knock it out the park. Like I would never sit here and say that because there's been shoots where
Speak
I'm
for
like
yourself, cause
at the
I'm out
end of it,
here. No, I'm just playing.
there's some shoots I'm like, I'm glad I made it to the end. Like that one was rough. Like sometimes you get clients that, just like my personality and my style, like it just didn't jive the way that I thought it was going to jive. Like you had that communication, over the phone or via Zoom or whatever, and it's all good. And then they get there in person, and they just kind of different. You know what I'm saying? And it just, I don't know. Sometimes
Yeah.
it just doesn't go the way you think.
Yeah, it totally just depends on, there's so many factors, but I think it is important. I feel like a lot of times models get a bad rap if they don't do like, I know a lot of the people that went to my photo walk, like Janae, right? Janae was very much so like, talk to me. Like she takes direction really well. Like that's when she vibes and you're like, oh, do this, do that. Like, da, 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 like, can you do this? It like inspires her. So it totally depends on the model photographer relationship, because with her, me and her are like this. We can shoot in like 15 minutes now because I understand that she does great with direction, where someone else, when I say like, okay, do the little thing, like, cause I don't always have the words. I'm like, when you're like falling out of the chair, but make it graceful. Some people are like, what? You know what I'm saying? And they can't
Hmm.
take that. But with me and Janae, we thick as thieves, honey, because like I had to learn that about her though. That's from shooting with her. After that time, I got to shoot with her one more time. So I was like, oh, okay, now we got it, right? So I think sometimes models get a bad rap because if they don't feel, I think T Mid talks about this all the time. If they don't feel comfortable, or they're like still in the nervous mode, and like you're never, and sometimes it's not the photographer's fault, like it's not really their fault for like being able to pull you out of your shell or like get you comfortable. It's not always, you try everything you can and sometimes it still doesn't work. But sometimes that energy, like if you don't create this environment that inspires the model, because as photographers we want to be inspired, like do something that inspires me, and you almost feel like, dang, we've been shooting for 6 hours and I thought it was only one, right? You just have this connection. You're not going to have that all the time, but sometimes if it doesn't happen, it's not always the model, right? Sometimes you either just don't click, and sometimes it's not the photographer. It's just like it just doesn't match. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like especially when you're doing creative stuff, if you're not on the same like you're not seeing eye to eye, and like on this, what is the word I'm looking for, you're not on the this,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Nah, yep, yep.
And it's kind of like, oh, I thought I was doing this, and I'm like, no, I'm going for this. It's kind of like, well, let's go home, pack it up, folks, like.
Yep.
But
Yeah, so sometimes it ends up just not being a good fit, and it's like you try to vet that out obviously in the beginning, but you can only vet so much until you actually get into the situation and you start doing this stuff, and then you realize like, yeah, maybe, the vision that I have, the model experience that you have, they're not really syncing up, and we're just having a hard time, making it work. I try to be, depending upon, like, if it's something where like I have a specific vision, obviously those, like, I'm gonna try to vet those a little bit more, because it's just like, yo, like, this is all I want. And again, it's like, yo, like, if I just get one image, like, I'm good. But the stuff where it's like you just shooting just to shoot for fun, it's like I try to learn about their strong suits, right? So it's like, what are you good at? What type of, posing do you like to do? What type of images do you like? And I try to work with that, so that way I'm doing something that they feel confident in doing, and depending upon what they want to do, some people, they'll be like, I want to branch out, try some different stuff. Like, I've been wanting to get deeper into modeling, this, that. So like, let's try some stuff out there. Okay, cool, we'll do that. But I typically try to just stay in wherever they're strongest and where they're comfortable. Cause yeah, like you were saying, if they're not comfortable and confident, then we'll never get good pictures. So
true that.
I definitely don't. I don't think I ever really blame the model. I think the only time that I would really put some accountability on the model is if the model presented themselves as an experienced model that I'm paying for. It's like, if you're telling me that you're experienced and you're charging me, cool. I'm expecting you to show up and
You got
deliver,
finessed.
an experienced, model. That would be the only thing that I could think of where I would say like, yeah, I mean, some of that, a lot of that accountability needs to go on the model. But outside of that, it's like I don't necessarily blame anybody. I mean, I think every shoot that I do, I always look at it and I say, what did I do right? What could I have done better? Every single shoot, I've got a spreadsheet. Every single shoot that I do, I always point out the good things, and it's like, what could I have done better? Yeah,
You write them down. You
I
write
got
them
a
down
spreadsheet.
physically.
Yeah, I got a spreadsheet. Cause I wanna be able to go back and because you know my memory is terrible, so I'm not going. I won't remember.
Hey.
So yeah, I got a spreadsheet. Every single model that I do, client, collab, every single shoot that I do, I write down what did I feel I got right and what could I have done better. And as I progress, I always look at that and say, you know, am I making the same mistakes? Like, am I repeating what I could have done better? And it's like if I
Mm-hmm.
see where it's like, okay, I'm not really addressing that, then I make a point to focus on that a little bit more and say, yo, you keep doing the same thing, you keep making the same mistake, or you keep having this same, like, you need to work on that, you need to fix that. Cause I'm always trying to get better as a photographer, you know?
Yeah, that's good. I remember. Um, I remember the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like we ain't never doing that again. We ain't never
I
doing that
mean, I
again.
wish I could remember. My memory's not that good, so I definitely have to just write stuff down. Uh, so let's go through some
What
of these.
they talking about?
Yeah,
Create,
it's so hard for me to do these
creative.
lives and focus on the comments as well. I feel like I miss stuff because
I'm gonna
it's
keep it a buck. I definitely when I didn't hear what you said, it's because I was reading. What about posing models? Teammate just said. What about it? What are you asking? If that's not a question.
do you have your
Do you
poses
have your
set
poses set
beforehand?
beforehand? No, I don't.
Um,
Yeah. You want to answer first?
yeah, I typically do not because I have very much realized, and I always express to my clients, like a pose that you see on one person or one couple or one group, there's a lot of factors that can make that pose not work very well for you. So I think I have kind of some go-to foundational type stuff, and I kind of see how they sit in that, and then I try to build off of that based off of what they naturally do and how they naturally curve their body and that sort of thing. Like I just try to adjust that to make it look good so that they still feel comfortable. It still feels authentic, but it looks good from a photography point of view.
Yeah. Um, I think with posing, I've developed like I can pose almost anybody, even if you're awkward or you don't really know your body. Like I know certain techniques and things to do to get you to pose in a way at least that's flattering. It may not be exactly what you saw on Pinterest, but some poses you don't want duplicated exactly. But you may not look exactly like the pictures you wanted, but you're gonna look your best self. Like I've you know, develop that skill over time of just being able to work with different body types and just it's all about capturing their best self. And some people have a different perception of themselves than they actually are. But posing for me is it's all about the mood. Like it has to be a mood. Like what are we doing? What story are we telling? Like are we being editorial? Because ain't no regular pop the toe poses going on around here. Like you got to bend the back, turn the neck, do something weird, shape the face. We're gonna have to do something. I do use Pinterest as like a for the model mostly, and then for me just to get my creative ideas all in one space because sometimes I'm like I get overwhelmed. I'm like I like this, I like that, I like this, I like that, and
Yeah,
so I'll
yeah.
put it all in one space and kind of narrow it down. But it's all about just like what you're saying, what you're doing, like what are we trying to say here, and most of the time, you know, we get it done. Like there's been the couple of times that have been a flop for me were like personal shoots, like grad or um, you know, family. It's like no one's trying to model here. We're just trying to
What's
capture us being us.
what's the average length of time for a photo shoot with you?
What you pay for.
Yeah, so I mean, what's your like what like in your packages or in whatever you have, like do your clients, do they pay by the hour, or does your package have a set amount of time? Like what's your average time?
Well, my smallest package is 30 minutes. So,
Is that, and what's that,
um,
a port, like is
in
that
that
like
time,
a mini, a portrait, like what is that?
yeah, that's a mini. And it's pretty much dedicated. I used to have it up until recently when I revamped my website. You guys should go check it out. And if you need help with your website, this is a shameless plug. If you need help building and creating your website, make sure you reach out to me because that's also what I enjoy doing. But anyways, until recently, I kind of changed the requirements for that because people be trying to get their whole 15-member family in that 30 minutes. I said, absolutely not. But typically I would do like a couple mini session, no more than 2 people, or like a family, like a three person family. You know, if it's like the 2 mom and dad and like a little baby or something like that. But it just depends on what it is. Typically I use that for headshots. If it's not like a whole brand package, you literally just want a couple of pictures, one outfit, like, you know. But I've actually, crazy enough, done 2 outfits in 30 minutes. And I shoot fast and I shoot efficiently. So
So
as long as the person,
what's your next package up? So you have the mini that's 30 minutes. What's the next one?
an hour.
An hour. So what's the, in terms of what the client gets, what do they get in the 30 minute and what do they get in the hour? Like in terms of
Like images.
images and then whatever else the package entails, whether it's outfits or looks, whatever. Like what do they get in the 30 minute versus the hour?
In 30 minutes, you get 5 images and 30 minutes of my time. It's on location. If you want studio, you have to pay studio fees. Whatever we can fit in that 30 minutes is what we get. I don't do like, oh, one outfit, da da da, because if we can get to like 3 outfits in 30 minutes, because I showed it to you, you said, yep, I like that, yep, I like that, and you have options, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can do that. I don't ever say like, oh, I'm charging per outfit, because we can get it done if you come ready. But I always tell my clients, if you got to warm up, you get that hour, because you're gonna be mad, because when that 30 minutes is up, like, I'm gonna do my best. I always like do my best to get you comfortable, relax. Why don't we do this? Let's start with the poses that I have, and then when you get comfortable, you can do the ones that you like. You know what I'm saying? Like, kind of work with them. But yeah. And then for the hour, you get 10 images on location. Same thing with the studio situation. Of course, that all that includes consults and making sure, you know, your vision and all that is on board. Now I have a whole separate thing if you want to do like a creative shoot. That's something different. You want me to build sets, get your outfit, get your makeup artist and all that. That's a whole nother situation. But just basic 30-minute, 1 hour, and then I have a 3 hour. Like, that's what I do for multi-generational families. And I had to, all this stuff was created over time, because when I tell you that 15-member family got me for that hour shoot and I was there for 3 hours, oh, I was ready to cry. Like, ain't no way I'm getting grandma, granddaddy, step auntie, step uncle, everybody want, oh, can you get one with me? I was like, I ain't get paid enough for this. So I
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
create something for them, because
So your 30 minute and your hour, is it double the cost of the 30, or is there a price break on the hour?
um there's like $20. It's like $20. It's not exactly doubled. It's like yeah, it's like $30 difference.
Yeah.
So
So
you might
so
as well get that.
the reason I'm asking is just because I'm not a big fan of mini sessions as just like a standard offering, because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it, for me, and again, like I people do whatever works for them, so I'm definitely not saying like you shouldn't do it personally, but for me, in my experience, I feel like if I have a mini, I'm having to work too hard to. I don't want to say it that way because I already know people gonna be like they gonna have something to say. But I feel like when you have
You
a
got a tendency
when
saying the
you when
wrong
when
thing.
you
No,
when
I'm just
you have
playing.
a mini, yeah, I know, right? When you have a mini, you've got to do more to show value to get people to get that next session up. Like if it's like, oh well, 30 minutes and you get 5 images. Of course, if there's somebody that wants more than 5 images, even then it's like, well, they would just be like, well, if I get the mini, can I just buy extra, what's the cost of the images,
Yep, and you're gonna
so
be
so
paying $25 an image.
yeah,
So
so
you
I
might as
just
well get
I
that
I just
hour.
I just always look at it as I don't like making it more work for me to, because obviously I want people to get a higher package. Like if I have a mini, like a mini's cool, but I would rather someone have, get a more expensive package. Like we would want all of our clients to, obviously spend more money with us. So for me, it didn't work, especially being in LA, like being in Vegas now, I do have to look at everything from a business perspective and figure out how I want to do things. But it's like in LA, my normal portrait session was 30 minutes. Like that was for a portrait session, like that was all you got, because I spend so much time in traffic just getting to and from a shoot. So trying to get like 2 or 3 shoots in a day, that was a whole entire day. Like that was a 10
Oh
hour
yeah,
day just doing 2 or 3 shoots. So it's like I didn't have the flexibility to be like, oh yeah, let's shoot for an hour, let's shoot for 2 hours. It's like if I had something like that, like it came at a premium. Because
yeah.
if I
Well,
had like
see,
a 2 hour shoot or an hour shoot, that would probably be like a 3 or 4 hour total time just in,
block,
from
yeah.
commuting, so
Well, welcome to Vegas because you're gonna be able to shoot like 8 shoots in a day and
yeah,
not
yeah,
even think twice about it because you can get everywhere in like 30 minutes.
yeah.
But
So that definitely changes it for
um,
sure.
yeah, I don't think the only thing about what you said that I don't agree with is you don't have to work any harder in a 30 minutes because you only are required to deliver however many images you say. So if you like for me, I for me, I shoot like this. So in that 30 minutes, I'm gonna have almost 200 proofs, and like 150 of them are gonna be good. I'm not,
Yeah,
and that's not
I
that's
wasn't
just
talking about the shoot itself. I was talking about working harder to basically upsell people to, the next package up. Like if you have a mini, a lot of people will want to just do the mini because it's the cheapest. So I don't want my
yeah.
clients
And then
all
they
going for the
realize,
mini. I would rather them go for the higher package. So if I have a mini and that next package, it's just more work that I'm having to do to basically show the value of that next package up to get more people there. I would rather just not even have this lower option, and then it's like this is just where they are every time.
yeah, that makes sense. But they realize real fast when they realize they got to pay 20 and $25 per image. So that five, and when you're delivering an album that has more than five good shots in it, and they see them and they're like, dang. And then they realize they got to come out of pocket for them, and they do. And that's something that I did not believe people was really doing. I'm like, ain't nobody finna pay $25 extra image. And I just shot the most basic um just like event style shoot. I had hard um strobe flash on the camera. It was a big group of them. I mean, basic pictures. And they bought like 15 extra images,
Yeah, yeah.
and their package came with 15. And they paid that money for just because it's their memory. It's they what they wanted. And like, do I think I should have got paid that for that per image? Yes. I do not feel like I robbed them at all because number one, I had to be on the strip, and that is insane. And I had to be in a hotel, which is also insane. And I made it look like they were there by themselves. Like, but it just depends on what you like. I honestly was on the fence about getting rid of my mini, but the way that I presented it, like the rules of it, is for one person or headshots. Like
Yeah.
that's all we doing. Like, because if you just want like some basic, like, oh, it's my birthday, I don't really have a big concept, like, can we just go to the park and shoot a couple pictures? I can do that. Especially like I was telling you, out here you can get anywhere
Yeah.
fast.
See,
So
I guess where it's different for me though too is I have the business model of I separate the session and the images. So I don't have packages. It's like you book the session, you pay me to show up to take the pictures, and then you purchase every image separately. I don't have packages.
mm,
So yeah, doing the mini, it just for me it just didn't make sense because at that point it's To me, the more packages that you have, and I'm just talking in general right now, just to put knowledge out there. The more packages that you have, the more data you give somebody, the more they're going to analyze it and want to break it down and want to try to understand, how you're getting and where you're getting. So let's say you have a mini that's 30 minutes and it's $100. And then, your next package up is an hour and let's say it's $300. People are going to be looking at that and saying, well, if I can get 30 minutes for 100, how is an hour, X amount? Even if you're like in that mini, you get 5 images, but in the hour you get 15. People look at photography as time. And so when it's like, oh, it's only 100 for 30 minutes, but yet it's, $200 more for another half hour, even if you're like, but you're getting 15 images, people don't understand how much time is going into it. So I've just come to find that the less data that you can give your clients, the better sometimes. And obviously everybody's different. It depends on your client base. But for me, it's like the less information that I give, the less that I have people trying to analyze. And that also comes from, my other business where it's like, when you're having to do a proposal, give somebody a proposal for work, you only give so much information because people will take that and break it down and it's like, well, you're charging me $2,000 for this, like I could get this, from so and so. It's like, this is how much it costs to get the job done. It's $5,000. Like, does that work for you or not? Well, can I get a breakdown? Nope. Like, this is the cost for the solution to your problem. It's $5,000. You cool with that or not? Because the more information you give people, the more they just sit there and analyze it and try to look at it and be like, so you're telling me like you're charging me X amount of dollars to do this? Because again, people don't understand the back work of photography. Like they don't understand the hours that it takes to call and edit and all of that stuff. So they just look at it like, man, that's a lot. Now, of course, it is what it is. But just for me, I try to keep it where I just don't overload with data, just so that way it's less like, and I don't want to say like I'm trying to convince people to see value, because it's like, people will be like, well, if there is value, like you shouldn't have to convince somebody. It's like, well, that you do. That's just the nature of sales, and photography is sales. I mean, you're trying to sell your services to people, and so you got to show value. So the less work I have to do to show value, the better.
Ha, froze again.
Yes, you did.
I will say that I actually posted a video on my story. I think it was yesterday, or day before yesterday, and this man was talking about that, and he was saying that I forgot what his name is, and I know some people may know what his name is, but I don't remember. But um, he basically was like role playing, right? So he had this guy say, okay, why do you want to, why, he was like, I make such and such amount of money to create a logo for you, right? And then the man was like, well, how long did it take you to make it? He said, why do you care? Why do you care how long it takes me to get what you want done? He was like, well, because I want to know where my money is going. And he was like, well, whether I do it fast, he was like, so do you want me to get charged less because I do it faster? Or do you want me to get paid, and you want me to get paid more if it takes me longer? And he was like, yes. And he was like, well, that doesn't make sense, because I can just tell you that it takes me a long time and I was done 15 minutes ago. So why are you using that concept? So what people think and what people are expecting from you, like, oh, well, you did this shoot for me for a brand and it only took you 30 minutes. So did you enjoy your product? Are you going to use it to sell whatever you have? Like, you're going to be using that to promote yourself. It makes you look good. It's going to bring you in more money. Whether it took me 15 minutes or 3 hours, it doesn't matter. And what I want to charge for that time is, that's just what it is. Like, you can't tell, like, just because their mind works like that doesn't mean like you would have to change your business plan to match their mind, because everybody's mind is going to do completely different things. They're going to do things all over the place, right? So it's like, when I heard that, I said, well, that makes sense, because I edit, or I can get an album out a lot faster than most. So people think that, and I used to think that about myself. Like, it doesn't take me as long. These people are saying that they're spending 3 days on one image. It doesn't take me that long. And I'm like, am I not as good as a photographer because it's not taking me a long time? And it's like, well, no, because you're still getting good quality, and it also doesn't make me a better photographer either. It's just my workflow is just different.
Right.
right? So it's
Right.
like, I don't think I should be getting paid less because it doesn't take me as long to get an album of, 35 images out. It takes you a month and it takes me a week and a half.
Yeah.
That and along with other projects. So I don't think the pricing necessarily has to reflect the time that it's taking you. I don't think I should, even though I'm putting a time on it on my shoot, that's how much time I'm willing to give you in
Right.
person.
Right.
But
Right.
really, all this time behind the scenes, this is what I'm willing to give you for this. And even if you book an hour shoot and we get done in 30 minutes and you're like, you know what, I saw all the pictures, like, that's fine. I'm not giving you money back.
Right. Well, see,
You know what
and
I'm
and I
saying?
and
But
I
we're done in
think
30 minutes.
I think that's I think that's a problem that photographers run into when their pricing is so heavily based on a per hour type thing. Like, oh, I charge $100 per hour, which I'm not saying that there's inherently anything wrong with that, but it's just, when you have, we lost Brie again. When you have this structure of, you're charging by a set amount of time, then that is definitely the time where if you get everything you need in 30 minutes, then they're just like, oh, well, can I get some of my money back? Because you charge me, $100 an hour. We only shot for 30 minutes. So, I want $50 back. And it's,
Immediately, no.
yeah, right, right. Which if you're even remotely decent at business, you would definitely say no. And that really should have been communicated up front, of course. But even sometimes, when you communicate stuff up front, like, hey, like this is the, like, I always like to say, I don't push the time too much, but I say, we have at most this much time. Like, this is the most amount of time that we have to do this shoot. So whether that's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever, like this is the most amount of time we have to get the shoot. But if we get what we need in a shorter amount of time, then it is what it is. You don't get any money back. Like, it is what it is. I need to have an automated add you back to the stream. You
Sorry.
keep
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so in my other business, again, like that's why we take the approach of this is the cost for the solution, and not here's a breakdown of the cost of how we got to our number, right? Because, like, let's say I got a job and I need a dumpster, and the dumpster is $500. Obviously, as a business, I'm going to mark that up, so I might charge $900. If I do a line item breakdown, it's like, okay, dumpster, $900. They can easily find out where I'm getting the dumpster from. When the dumpster shows up, they can see where I got the dumpster from. They can call the company and be like, hey, like, how much is it for, a 40 cubic yarder? $500. Wow. Like, he's trying to charge us $900. Again, that's where I go back to the
What that
less
got to do
dated.
with you?
Well, it does, like, it is what it is. But the thing with the thing that I say about business is I always try to make it as less amount of work for myself as I can, right? So sure, I could let you know that it's $900. You could do your research. You can come back to me and be like, "Why are you charging me 900? It should be,
Don't ask me
five."
that.
But if when they do, as a business person, I have to
Who
respond
asking
to
you that?
I
Who
have
is
to
asking you
respond
that?
I have to respond to that inquiry, right? So for me, it's easier to be like, don't even put it there. Like, you don't need to know the breakdown. It's like if you have a problem and you're looking to someone to solve that problem. So as photographers, if you need a photographer, you wouldn't put on your website all of the factors into how you got to your price. Like, on your website, you're
Right.
going to have your price. This session is $450. You wouldn't want to shoot yourself in the foot and be like, okay, well, here's how I'm getting to this. I have these expenses. This is how much I want to pay myself. This is my overhead. This is this and that. You wouldn't give that line item breakdown because that's just too much data. People are going to analyze that, and then they're going to be like, yo, like, you're charging this amount for this. Like, you're trying to make X amount. Like, here's the number. Like, does the number work for
Hmm.
you? Does the number not work for you? So I just always try to keep all my stuff like as
So do you
simple as I
think
can.
that saying how many photos you're going to get and how much time you're willing to spend is the equivalent to that?
No, no, I don't, because obviously you have to have a limit on your session. Like, you have to have a limit. You know, like you're
Some
not
people
gonna.
don't. Some people
Well,
just say whatever time we get done.
yeah, and I think people that would say that are probably not full-time photographers, or their livelihood does not depend on photography. Because if your livelihood depends on photography, you cannot just go into every shoot just like however long it, like how would you even plan, like how would you book set, like how would you plan, like you can't. Like you have to have some sort of time constraint. Like even if you don't necessarily tell your client that, you on the back end you have a time. And then in
Yeah,
terms of
I
like
can hear.
if you provide images, yeah, you also have to, you have to tell people that as well. So I'm not saying like that's like data overload. I'm more so that the whole, this whole thing more so came from like having, I've seen like websites where people will have like 10 different packages of stuff, and it's just kind of like I'm having a hard time understanding like the difference in all your packages and how you would get somebody to buy the eighth level in versus the first or the second one, because I'm not seeing where there's really any
The
value there.
difference.
Yeah. So yeah,
Um,
that's where I was really getting with that. Not so much like breaking down what a package gives you. It's just not having too many packages.
yeah, I hear that. I think because I think I have six. I no, I have technically I have six categories. I broke them down by category versus like packages. So the only packages that I really have are my mini and then my hour. And then I have branding, events, and weddings. And then I just recently added what do you call it? Style shoots, because that's like a whole nother thing. Like I don't want people being like, oh, I have this and I want to do this, and they think they're getting that hour, because who's doing that? Right. So I kind of did it that way. And that's based off of my clientele and what the questions that I get. And do you do this? And do you do that? And all of my pricing, it's not set. All of my prices say starting at. So if anytime somebody is like, oh, I want the mini, right? It's like, okay, well, what do you want? Tell me what your vision is. Like, oh, no, you need the hour. Or it's going to be an addition. It's the mini and the studio fee. You're not getting that mini rate because you want to go to studio or you want to go to Africa. Like, we ain't going to Africa in 30 minutes.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I have starting at on my web, but I categorized it because I get so many questions on, do you do this? What is your price for this? Well, most of my packages, when it gets away from just a basic hour or a mini, they're custom. They're custom built packages, because if you say like, oh, well, when you shot my birthday party, you didn't charge me such and such. And it's like, yeah, because yours wasn't on the strip. When I have a strip fee now, because it's so unpredictable down there. You don't know if there's going to
Mm-hmm.
be construction. You don't know if they're going to have a boxing match. Like when I went last weekend to the MGM, they have that big lion in the lobby. Well, it
Mm-hmm.
had a huge boxing ring around it because the fight was going to be out here. And I'm like, that's not aesthetically pleasing. Now that's one like spot off of what my plan was. And now I have to think on my feet and find another spot. So stuff like that I charge extra for. So,
Yeah.
but that's all communicated on the back end. I don't write that out.
Right,
But I
right.
think people like to have a, an idea of what they're walking into or agreeing to, without
Yeah.
asking you. I like to try to limit how many questions I have to ask you once I get you on the phone or an email. Like my inquiry sheet, give me your Instagram or your Facebook, how many people are going to be there, what is your vision? You can write a paragraph. Let me know what you want, because don't say, hi, I want a photographer. I get that all the time. You like,
Yeah, yeah, that ain't
what you
enough.
want?
Yeah, 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 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
And, so
yeah, yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. And I mean, every photographer is different, so whatever works for people, um, definitely works. Like when I first started, I had the package stuff, and I moved away from it. Honestly, I moved away from it just because I wanted to try a different business model, and it worked. It worked, and obviously, being in a new location, like I'll have to assess that again and do some analytical stuff to see if it still makes sense to keep it that way. But the clientele that I had back in LA, that just worked for them. You know, it's like you pay me for my time to show up to take pictures, and then you buy the pictures that you want. You know, so it's like, you know, no matter how good of a photographer I may think I am, I've never had this problem, or at least never, it's never been expressed. But, you know, it's like if you have a package and it's like, you know, you're going to get 15 images, you know, maybe you send that gallery to that person and they don't find 15 images that speak to them. You know, maybe they find
Mm-hmm.
12 images that speak to them. And now they're feeling like, you know, they paid for 15 and they really only love 12. I've just found that, you know, for my clients, like they prefer to just buy the 12. Because, you know, what I tell them is, I'm like, the people that have packages, you're still paying for the images separately. They're just built into a
Mm-hmm.
package. Like when that person came up with the price, they said, okay, you know, what is it worth for 15 images, and what is my time worth to do the session, and then here's that final number.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, it's like when you have them separate, and some people don't like that. You know, I've had some people that it's like, you know, they're just like, just give me the price, like just give me one number to just have everything done. Some people prefer that. But it's just like I tell people, you know, it's like when I do it this way, it's no different than the people that have packages. It's like I'm just giving you the flexibility to only pay for what you want. And when
Mm-hmm.
I put it that way, a lot of times it's just like I like that. You know what I'm saying? Like imagine
Mm-hmm.
if, you know, you go to the store and you're like, man, I don't want a 12 pack of Coke, but I don't want to buy, you know, 10, 12. You know, it's like if I could buy 10 but it would still be the same price as the 12, just only 10, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be like, that's what I like. So that works for some people, doesn't work for others. So
Yeah. West Coast said, Bri, the mini session thing. How is the, what is that, ROI?
return on investment.
Return on investment of it. I just have a hard time wrapping my head around it. Lots of work for little in return. Well, what are y'all doing? I don't work that hard.
Yeah, and I
I
don't
don't
I don't think I understand the lot of work either. Um
Yeah, I don't work hard. If it's a mini, it's something that I can do in 30 minutes. It's typically and I also am majority of the time a natural light shooter. So I don't know if you're having in mind like having to build stuff. And even when I go to studio, the studio that I use, like I'm very particular. I use one studio. It's a natural light studio. And if I do bring my flash, which I do have a off camera flash, it's a newer Vision 4 or whatever, but I'm bouncing light. Like I don't have a whole situation that I have to do when I shoot. Like it's usually Bri and her camera, like hi. You know what I'm saying? So there's
so let
the
me let
investment
me
is me driving.
yeah, so I was literally just about to say, let me ask you, you know, now that gas prices are what they are, the mini session in terms of getting to the session, right? Because I can't, I don't know if I understood when you answered the question. So your 30 minute and your hour, is your hour double the 30 minute basically?
Yeah, it's like $30 less than double.
Okay, so in terms of like your time, your
Mm-hmm.
physical time on the shoot, okay, cool, you're being compensated for that. But I think another thing where I struggle with the mini is that if you're doing a mini, you're driving the same way that you would be driving if you were doing an hour session. So right now, with gas prices being what they are, how
Mm-hmm.
are you compensating yourself for the higher gas prices, and how do you basically compensate yourself well enough to drive to and from a location just for that 30 minute?
Um, Number one, it depends on where it's at. So where I'm located at, um, it's easy for me to get anywhere in this like in the city in like 10 minutes. If that, honestly. And most of the places that I'm shooting are like near me. And if it's anything outside of what I feel like is gonna be a little bit more, then we talk about that. Like, oh, you want to go to the mountains? That's going to be a travel fee. Like that's why I say it's case by case. I always say starting at, because if you got me going to Red Rock and I got to drive in the mountains and then in the mountains and then up the mountain and then around the mountain, like you got to pay extra for that, or we're changing the location. How about this park? And you can see the mountains behind it. Then we can do that. So it's not, it's just, it's case by case. So I don't think anyone's like I'm not losing. You know what I'm saying? And then I adjust my rates accordingly. I just raised my rates even more. Like my mini, I think was 200, maybe a year and a half ago, and now it's 275. And then like even then, I probably might raise it again. I mean, I could, but because being a business owner, I'm not locked in to my rates. Like if you call me and you're like, oh, I just need 30 minutes and this is what I want. If I feel like it's going to take more effort out of me, I'm going to tell you like, oh, that's an additional fee for such and such and such. And if you don't want to pay it, then they ghost me or they find
Yeah.
somebody else.
Hey,
I'm
that's
okay
okay.
with that.
Yeah,
You
that's
have to pay
okay.
me for my time and for what I feel is necessary. You know what I'm saying? Someone
Yeah.
said, yeah,
Yeah,
we
I
ain't do I
think
said we ain't doing all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think and again, I'm not a fan of minis unless it's financially rewarding, which depending on the market, that could be kind of tough to do. Like, I mean, there's people in LA that, they're charging, six, seven, $800 for a mini, so it's like, yeah, I mean, that's still great money just for that little bit of time. But I think a lot of people that do minis, they basically try to do stuff that's cheap to try to get that business in. And I think that's where you run into, it's a lot of work for not a lot of money. Because it's like if you're doing a mini and it's $125 and you get, five images or eight images, like you're doing a lot to drive somewhere, to do the session for a half hour, drive back home, edit those pic, do all that stuff for $125. Like that's definitely a lot of work, and you're not really getting much for it. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
I think it really just depends on what you charge. Obviously, every what you need for a shoot to be profitable is going to be different than everybody else. But um
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I
and
just
like you said, like to some sorry, my phone is like gonna die, so I'm gonna plug you in. But um depending on how much like my bookings are pretty consistent now. So it's like I feel like I can afford still doing a mini. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm consistently booking, and so there's not as much of a urgency. Like okay, like I need to meet like this right now because last month I only made this or whatever. Like okay, everybody needs to be booking my hour session. Like I don't have that anymore where it was like that before. Like okay, I have to be competing. Like I need to get my rates to a spot where I'm competing, because right now like people are booking me, but if I'm not charging enough, i'm not I'm in the same spot, right? So I always, the way that I do my rates is based off my living. So like, and I need to be able to pay this and afford this and whatever. And then on top of that, it's like if I get to a place where I leave and I say, whew, I am not getting paid enough for this, that rate has to go up. Like that is a telltale sign for me, because let you wait till you shoot in this Vegas heat. You let me know your
well,
first
it,
experience.
it wasn't it
Because
wasn't that cool in LA. Like everybody keep being like, oh, the
I used
Vegas
to
heat
live
like is hot in
no,
LA.
no, I used to live in LA and it's still not Vegas heat.
How
I want
how
you to
how
shoot.
how long, man? That have that LA
I grew
sun,
up I grew
that
up in LA,
that
but
LA
it's
sun
nah,
is
it's not
brutal.
Vegas.
It's
It's
brutal,
not Vegas. You're gonna not be
man.
able to breathe. You're gonna be out there like
I mean, hey, whether it's 100 or 115, none of it is ideal to be shooting in.
look, it's insane. But
um,
yeah, it just depends. What do you say? Raising prices isn't as easy as charging higher to begin with. Absolutely. When I tell you, I went through, so I used to be charging $150 to $175 for an hour session, and people were getting full albums from me. Okay. I started shooting 4 years ago. So when I first started shooting, I just thought you just gave the pictures. Like, what is the point of me keeping pictures? That just didn't logically make sense to me that I would take all of these pictures and have beautiful images and only give them a certain amount. It didn't make sense to me on a creative and like nice Bri side, right? So 150, 175 for an hour, and they were getting albums of like 100 to like 250, depending on how, even 300 sometimes, depending on how inspiring they were to me. And I'm talking family sessions. So the dog, the horse, whatever, whoever was there, everybody got like a mini session from me. So I have all these people saying, what? Are you kidding? They're like, they're so mad at me, right? They're like, I can't believe you're doing that. Like, your pictures are, number one, they're good enough for you to go up on your rate. Number two, you working for pennies. So I'm like, what? Like, I love it here. Yay, right? It took me a very long time to raise my rates because I felt like my confidence had to match what I was charging. And even now, people are probably like, you can charge way more than that. It's about like a feeling and your market, because yeah, of course I could be like $800. My market right now is going to be like, see you on Instagram, Bri. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't afford that.
Yeah.
But it is a lot that goes into it, but you know when it's time. Like,
Yeah.
it's like a feeling. It's like, you know it.
Well, and that's, I mean, that's business. I think, to say, charge higher to begin with, that sounds good, but depending upon where you are, like where you are today, you wouldn't have been able to start charging those prices right when you started like that. You
No
just don't,
way.
you would have had a hard time getting clientele, so it's like, yeah, of course, like if you came out the gate at 400, it would be easier than coming out the gate at 100 and making your way up to 400. But typically,
Mm-hmm.
most business structures, you're going to have to start at the 100 and work your way up. And
For sure.
you know I don't to me, I see it as kind of the same level of work, whether you start there or you go up there. It's like if you start at 400, you got to find a client base that's willing to pay 400. If you go from 100 to 400, you still have to find your client base that is willing to pay your $400 today. Like the work that you have to put in to get those clients is the same, so it regardless of where you start, you still got to do the work to find people that's willing to pay your rate. And you typically will, anytime you raise prices, you're going to have those clients where you were just at their high end, and it's just like at the point that
Mm-hmm.
now you go from 275 to 325, you've lost them. And that's fine. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like you can't say, oh, well, I don't want to raise my prices because I'm going to lose, these clients over here. That's just the name of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to charge what
Yeah.
you're worth and what you need to charge. And if you lose some of those clients, then you just have to do the work to find those clients that are willing to pay that 325 because they're definitely out there.
Yep. I agree. I agree. It's a give and take. It's like, what am I willing to sacrifice, you know, and what are they willing to sacrifice? It's literally the same thing. Like, who's willing to do what? Customer acquisition is key to increasing prices. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, really, it's
Absolutely.
the same work. If you're gonna raise your prices, you basically doing the same thing that you would do if you was coming out the gate. Is there a
Yep.
market that's willing to pay these prices? What is my
Mm-hmm.
competition doing? What am I bringing to the table to justify my prices? What value am I bringing? It's like you're doing
Let
the
me
same. You're
tell
doing the same
you.
thing.
Let me tell you. I feel like the one thing, so when I was going through like my transitional, like I'm doing this for fun to like business, I was in that like weird space. Nobody that was giving me this like price raise advice was, they never said to look at the quality of your work. So I had people that were not taking as good as pictures of me or as me, saying like, oh, raise your rate, or don't raise your rate, or this is what I'm charging. And it's like, why are you charging that? Like, that's how I felt. Like I was in a position like, okay, what's the trick? Because this is not adding up. And I feel like that not having something to offer is why I wasn't so quick to raise my rate. Because I know I was looking at people like, I know good and well you not charging 350, not even three, don't even charge 350. What are you doing? Like, you're not giving them anything. The quality is bad. Like, you have a horrible attitude. Like, it wasn't adding up to me. So it was like, on the back end, like I'm presenting myself like, yes, this is what I do. I'm gonna have a great service, give you a great service, but at the same time, I'm learning. So in the background, I'm like, okay, let me make sure I have this, let me make sure I do this, let me make sure I'm communicating well, getting my stuff together so that I can feel confident, like, oh yeah, I can't do that. Like, so now I'm at a point where it's like, oh, I can't shoot for less than this on a project like that. Like, I can't help you. And like, that's a new experience because like I said, I shoot from my heart. Like, this is a service that I'm providing to you to be helpful to you. So to have to tell people like, I'm not in your budget, like that, I don't like that. But at the same time, I had to realize my worth and what I have to offer you. Like, I'm the prize here, like for what you're asking me to do. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. So I think that's key. And I think, something that if anyone ever reaches out to me about pricing for photography, I obviously, like, your quality of work is important. I'm not downplaying
Mm-hmm.
that whatsoever. But I think the quality of your work in terms of the bigger picture of how you come up with your pricing is in all reality a very small piece for a couple of reasons. Number one, like, your quality of work, it's all subjective. What you think is great work, everyone might think that it's crap, or work that you
Mm-hmm.
think is not that great, your potential clients may think that it's the best work that they've ever
It's
seen. So there's
wonderful.
there's
Ooh.
no way to really put a true scale on it. And then
Mm-hmm.
number two, there's a lot of photographers that do decent or above work, and our
Mm-hmm.
average clients, they're not able to necessarily readily see those differences all the time. Like, as photographers, we can look at a picture and be like, man, that sky is blown out. Or, they did this, they did that. Your average
I like the
client
blown out
is
sky.
your average client isn't necessarily going to see that or care about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell people, like, when it comes to pricing, obviously you want to have strong work, but you got to go deeper than that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what experience are you giving your clients? That's where I think you probably excel really well with your personality, is that you're giving an experience to your clients that would make working with you, even if you were charging more than the next photographer, they would want to work with you more because they're going to have fun on your shoot. And it's like, that is
Mm-hmm.
where you can really show
Something
that
that can
value, where
offer.
it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm charging 450, but you're going to have a great time. You're going to look very authentic in the images. Like, you're going to look at them and you're going to love them. It's like, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like the quality, I tell people all the time, it's like, my like, if a client was to ask me, like, how are you better than the next photographer, I would be like, well, in terms of pictures, I'm no different than the rest of them. It's like, I take good pictures, the next photographer takes good pictures, and the next photographer takes good pictures. But it's like, when you
Mm-hmm.
work with me, it's like, it's that experience. That's what you want to give, and that's what you can charge for. And that's where it's like, you show that value. It's like, oh, well, the pictures, yeah, they're good. But have you ever done a professional shoot? Like, did you feel comfortable? Were you yourself when you looked at those pictures, outside of them being good pictures? When you looked at them, like, did you think about the good time that you had? When you look at them, does that look like you? Like, does that feel like you? That's where a lot of clients be
Mm-hmm.
like, nah, not really. Like, the pictures were good, but I don't know, like, I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like myself, or, I don't know, this, that, and
Mm-hmm.
the other. So that's where you could charge more money. It's like, it's that
Yeah,
experience. That's really what sells. That's where you could be like, yeah, I'm more expensive than some other photographers, but I guarantee you, you're going to have the best time with me than you've had with any other photographer you've worked with.
absolutely. And that's, I think, that's where I am right now with realizing that. Even before they're even officially a client, the customer service that you're going to get from me is over and beyond what the average would get, and but that's the part that I care about. Like, I do that naturally, but then hearing some like horror stories, or just even just critiques of how people feel with other people and the experiences that they have, or even experiences that I have with other businesses, that's what's important to me. The experience. I want it to be great. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, she was kind of dry in the beginning. She ain't really respond to my emails, but on the shoot, it was great. And afterwards, she wasn't really responding to me. It took a long time to do this, and she was kind of a little snarky in the email. Like, I want the entire experience to be pleasant, right? And of
Yeah.
course, you can't please everybody. There's always going to be something maybe that someone may not, but when you know that you're doing, well, I would say for me, if I know that I'm moving with integrity and with good intentions, I'm going to do my best to make sure we part on good terms and we end on good terms and with an understanding, as much as I can, because sometimes you just can't please people. But that's what's important to me. It's not about butt kissing and all of that, but it's like, okay, well, why do you feel that way? I'm sorry that you feel that way, or whatever. How do we come to grips? But I know that that is a part of my service. Like, I
Yeah.
thought that that's just how it is. I was almost like a bubble mentality. Like, everybody is considerate of others, right? And I learned real quick, real quick, that people are not considerate. They don't care
Yeah.
about you. They don't care about none of that. But I do, and so it's hard. Like, I don't feel like I have to explain that to every client. Like, I care, so you paying for it. But that I consider that when I'm doing my pricing as well, because when you are on my mind, you're on my mind. It's like, I want to take care of my client. I don't care if our shoot is a month away. I'm like, oh, it looked like it's supposed to rain. Like, I'm very in tune with everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yep, that's definitely how it has to be. And Pogo said, yeah, it's a big transition from artistry to becoming a business, and that's so true. And I think, once you become photography as a business, it becomes much less about photography and almost all about business. It's like I wish that being a full time photographer was still just about taking pictures, but
yeah.
that's almost the smallest part of the whole business pie as a photographer. Everything else really is customer service. That's really what it is: customer service, marketing, and running a business. Like the
Mhm.
picture taking part becomes very small, and that's why I always tell people, it's like, if you're gonna go into photography full time, you got to be ready for it, because it can make you lose your passion for photography. Because I think people think like, oh, as full-time photographers, y'all just take pictures all day and make a living off of it, and it's like, nah. Like, we take a
Yeah.
few pictures here and there, but there's so much on the back end that it's like, if you don't have any desire to do that, then you wouldn't want to go into it as a business, because the whole thing changes.
And I think that's the part that's different for me, is that I love the photography and the editing and the traveling for it, and like, I love all of that so much. And even the experience with the customers, the meeting the people, the problem solving if something comes up and it's an issue. Like, I enjoy the whole entire thing, which is why I think it's a little bit easier for me. Like, the business side, as far as like the numbers and the taxes and all of that, I don't that part doesn't interest me, even though, like, okay, money's coming in, whatever, but I have resources in place that help me with those things, because my mind, I'm a creative at heart. Like, the
Mm-hmm.
base of me is just creative. Like, that's just how my mind works. It's like, play now, work later, right? But um when it comes to, that's why when you were telling me, you were asking me, like, do you separate, your personal from, photography? You get me, like, you get my heart across the board. I don't care if I'm taking, like, I took little soccer pictures. That's not, I don't, you don't see those on my page. I take a little, but 5-year-old team soccer picture. I take them every year. I love it. I love being able to take them and seeing them grow every year. It's the same team every year. I get to see them come back, right? So it's like, there's the part I love. That's the part I love it. I love the editing. I love the, I got to get this album out. Like, even though I may be like stressed in the moment, I love it. It's literally me and my heart. So when people are like, oh, I don't like this part, or, it turns into a business, it's like, I like that part. I like that I'm growing. I like that I'm talking to companies. I like that someone doesn't see my worth, and that I'm in a position where I have to either stand. That's a growth for me, right? Because me and my business are one. So I view it as growth. Like, if I go through this emotional thing and I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to? That's not even that much money. Why don't you want to book me? Like, why are you ghosting me? Like, that is like iron, like, that's like ironing, sharpening iron, because it's like, well, why are you emotional? This is business. And I'm like, oh, right. Okay, you know your worth. If you don't want to come down, don't come down. If you do want to come down, come down. That's to help me, and that's how I view it. I take it in that way, and I have help with, like, my mom and stuff. She's like really like had to like help me through that, because I'm a creative, it's like a punch in the stomach if something's not received the way that I wanted it to be, but that helped me grow. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have a, oh, photography business. Like I don't have that. It's literally
Yeah.
all one thing to me, you
Yeah,
know?
see that's interesting because it's almost the opposite, for me. Like I separate the two so much, but I think that's just like my old job. Like I have to. Like when you work in, obviously I don't have to in photography, but it's like I did my old job for a long time. So, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to break those habits. But it's like, when you're in a position, where you have to tell people, you have to, like, it is what it is. And it's like people need help, like people on the brink of losing everything. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, could I go in and fudge some stuff to approve you so that, you get this stuff? Yeah, I want to, yeah, because I'm on the phone with you and you're like crying and you got your kids and you about to get kicked out of your house and all of this stuff. Like you
Mm-hmm.
want to do everything you can to help people, but you can't. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I would go to jail. So it's like when you do that year after year after year, it
Yeah.
just becomes ingrained in you to where it's like you separate like your emotion and personal feeling from like what you're doing from a business, because it's the only way that you can survive like working in that type of environment. Like it would eat you alive
Mm-hmm.
if you just let your personal mix. So,
Everybody's
after,
story affect
yeah,
you.
after
Yeah.
doing that for so long, like once I started doing photography full time, like that's just what I know. You know what I'm saying? That's not to say that like I
Yeah.
shouldn't have a different approach, because I am doing a more creative field now. So it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not to say that I shouldn't have like more of what you have. I think there would be some benefit there, but it's just like
Mm-hmm.
when you do something for so long, like it's just hard to, in my mind, start blurring those lines again. But
That's true.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we
Yeah, and
evolve.
that,
And
like a Poe girl said, it makes a difference as well with males and females. The mindset about it is true,
yeah, definitely,
because
yeah,
we, as women, we're more emotionally motivated. You know,
yeah,
there's like a connection. I have like connections with my clients. Like I want to, oh, okay, yeah, I want to do that for you. I want to, make sure you feel. And with men, it's kind of like there's no connection here. Like I'm
yeah,
doing a
yeah.
job.
Yeah,
What do you want?
that's how I look at it when I show up. I'm
Yeah, you
like,
want a picture
hey,
or not?
this is right, this is a job. Like, we doing this or no? Like, what
Yeah,
you
like
want?
it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's black and it's white. It's like, do you want the picture? You don't want the picture. With me, it's like, oh, do you like it? Does it make you feel good? Like I want you to feel good when you see this. I want you to enjoy. I want you to like the whole thing. I want you to be like, oh, yay, or like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. Like that's the part that like it all comes together, and you get a good picture at the end. Like period. that's
Yeah,
that's what I love about it. But I can hear what you're saying too, and like it's like the balance of it, because I need that too, so that I don't get either overwhelmed or whatever, taken advantage of, and different things like that. Like I need to have a balance of that so that I can be focused and not be so emotionally like woo woo woo, because
yeah,
somebody said this and then somebody said that. It's like, well, I know that I did my best and I can stand on that. I know that I did everything that I could to please you. It's unfortunate that I wasn't able to leave you 100% satisfied. Bless you.
yeah, yeah. That's why I don't do newborn, because I like kids, but I'd be like, I don't care about this baby. Like I don't care
This
about
is
this
not my
baby. Like
baby.
we
Yeah.
need, like, I don't got all day. Like, yo, we need to. So that's
Like
why
it's crying.
I don't even do
Fix
no
it.
newborn. Like if somebody absolutely
Yeah.
wants me to do newborns, I actually, well, I don't have anyone here now. I have to find someone here, but I pay an assistant to basically do all of the woman stuff, because it's tough for a guy to do newborn. Like we just don't naturally have like that
That
motherly or
nurture.
child, that
Mm-hmm.
nurturing instinct. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's just awkward for me. Like I
Yeah.
don't
It's
like
a
touching
it's a
people's
place for
babies that I
everybody.
don't know them
Yeah.
and stuff. It's just like I just don't like that. But there's money there. You know what I'm saying? Like there
Yeah.
is money in newborn stuff. So it's hard to leave that on the table. But it's like if I don't feel like
You
I'm gonna
wanna
be
you
able to
wanna
deliver
start a
that
newborn?
experience,
We could start a newborn company. It'll
man,
be
I'm
it'll be
telling
me.
you,
I'll handle the babies and you can
I would
take
be
the pictures.
down, because like my best friend back home, the amount of money that they paid for, and I didn't even do their pictures because I told them, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do y'all justice on these pictures. So I was like, y'all should go to somebody else that like does this sort of thing. The amount of money that they paid, and I
Oh yeah.
mean, like
Oh
he
yeah.
does
I've
like
done a couple
photography
of
as a
them.
hobby. It's like the money that's there.
Yeah, it's insane because those are moments that you can't repeat and you can't get back. Like the stuff like that, like weddings, that's why you can charge a grip for weddings. You're not, well, you might get remarried again, but this moment right
Right,
here,
right,
you don't get this one back.
right, right,
If you don't capture it right now, you don't get it back. A newborn, that newborn stage goes by so fast, you don't
right.
get that back. And so that's why you can charge a grip, because not only, like, I'm not just laying them there on the blanket, I'm about to pose you and put your little butt and your little toes and your little nose and your little lips, like all of those little details that sometimes you forget. Let's be honest. I'm a parent, you be like, what was your little baby lips looking
Yeah,
like?
yeah.
But you go back and you look at the picture like, oh, look at the little baby lips, right?
Yep.
So all of those, you're for the, oh, my AirPod just died. You're charging for the memory, which it sounds weird, but that's what you're charging for. The memory
Yeah.
that you will forever have frozen in time that you can never get back.
Yep. Yep. Big facts.
So
Big facts. Okay, so we went double the amount of time that I said we was gonna do this live, and my stomach is growling, so I gotta go eat because I am starving. But I appreciate you coming on. I think the conversation was good. Hopefully, when people watch this back at any point in the future, they get a lot from this. I think they will. I think there was a lot of good content perspective that was given. So we definitely need to do these more. I enjoy these sort of things, just talking about stuff and kind of putting different things out there that people maybe don't think about in the photography space.
for sure.
So, well, how, man, I was trying to. What did they say at the end of what is it at the end of the Grinch? To all, something good night and good night to all and all good night or something like that.
Oh, that's
Is it
Disney.
is it,
Isn't
it
that
well, yeah,
Disney?
I don't know where is that from. It just like came in
It's
my mind,
that's
but I don't know where it's
Disney.
from. For to
Yeah,
all is good. Yeah, I don't even know.
something. And to all, a good night. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely
something like
Disney. But I
that.
can't. I'm not hearing it right now.
So I just butchered
But
that.
yeah,
Okay, all good.
it's
Cool.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate it. And I will talk to you soon. Good night to everybody. We appreciate you tuning in. Hit that like button on your way out. And
Yeah.
until the
Thanks for
next
having me. Thanks,
video,
guys.
take care.
Bye.